Marcello.
Hello, hello. Welcome everybody to Genzio's Crypto News. Every Friday now, we bring you an amazing show, a live stream where we talk about what's happening in the space, the newest trends, the biggest updates, and I'm really excited. Eli, how are you doing, my friend?
Dude, Marcello. I'm doing great, man. I'm really happy to be here. I'm super excited to talk about kind of what's been going on in the crypto space with you.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Big shout out to Action, who I got to host this last week with him. He couldn't make it today, so it's going to be Eli and I. But I'm really excited. There's always something happening in the industry, both, I guess, how you look at it, both positive and negative. But we're going to talk about the whole show. We're going to talk about the whole shebang. So I'm excited to get into it. I just want to make sure everything's running correctly here on my end. I know we're live on YouTube, so shout out to everybody on YouTube. I want to make sure we're live on X, but while we do that, Eli, there's so much to talk about. What should we start with? Anything on your mind? Anything you want to start breaking the ice with here?
Well, I guess nothing in particular. We have some kind of news sources. Like obviously the biggest thing in the news, and this isn't just in Web3. There's obviously a conflict going on in the Middle East with Iran. So I feel like that kind of is like the major talking point right now. Everyone's talking about oil prices, talking about the Strait of Hormuz. It's like there's a lot of like going on geopolitically, and as we all know, that also affects what we're doing because crypto is an international kind of industry.
Absolutely, and it definitely has a huge impact on everything, right? And I remember even just for a minute, we even just saw like prices of oil flying up for quite some time, while everything else was kind of pretty much bleeding and not doing very well. But I'm excited to kind of get into it. I think we could start with some macro and financial markets to kind of start breaking the ice. You want to share the first article, and I know you already had it on your screen, and then we could kind of go around here. Um,
Yeah. Let's get
Amazing.
into it.
So, what do we got here? Market quick take between for March 25th. That was obviously a few days ago, but lots of different stuff happening. Overall, equities, U.S. softened on oil and software. We were just talking on how like oil's been popping the last couple of weeks. Europe edged up on semis, and Asia rallied as ceasefire hopes cooled energy fears. Right. So. Overall, U.S. equities dipped amid the software sector's weakness and mixed PMI data at 51.4, which is signaling obviously slower growth and cost pressures. European
hmm
markets edged higher on semiconductors, while yeah, we talked about that already. What are you thinking of this, Eli? There's a lot of stuff happening here.
I think that like one of the things it says, there's a lot of volatility right now. I think there's just like a lot of things that are kind of up in the air that we still, don't know where things are going to go. Like you said, with oil prices, kind of with this like pressure on semiconductors, and I think like things are still really up in the air. We'll just kind of see how things progress, like with kind of the war. I mean, that's kind of what it says here, right? Like the war in Iran, navigating market uncertainty. We've seen some relief. It kind of like the markets are kind of like reacting to the headlines that we see coming out of the White House or coming out of Iran. So I think it's really just like we're just going to be kind of going up and down while that kind of plays out. What do you think?
Yeah, it's during these times, things are definitely extremely uncertain. Again, we don't know where we're going to be even just next week. So I'm kind of curious to see how this continues to impact everything. So we'll see, man. Hopefully, things do clear up with the war situation. Everything's unpredictable, though. So we'll see how all of this continues to impact
What
the
do
market.
you what do you think? I mean, do you think the conflict in Iran is going to keep, going on for some time, or
I
because
don't know,
they're talking
man.
about like this, they're talking about this 15-point plan to end the war already, but some people are a little skeptical.
I don't know. Naturally, I'm always a bit skeptical. I'm not a big fan of war myself, to be honest. So I would love for things to end, but we'll see, man. I hope that this plan does get executed to avoid any other unnecessary turmoil. So we'll see, man. What are you thinking around that?
Yeah, I think I saw Action's comment in the thing. Um, I got a big smile on my face, Action. Um, I do. I'm a little, maybe a little bit. I'm a little pessimistic on the conflict. I think that it's going to continue for some time. I think we're going to kind of see this like back and forth as things escalate. Like I think there was a headline in there about how the United States is we've deployed 2,000 troops. Like I think I saw another headline about how we're going to send some more troops over there. So I think it's going to continue on for a while. But we also though like at the same time like as things have kind of changed, like as Donald Trump says this, or Iran they say this, like we did see Bitcoin, it was up around 71,000. It's kind of gone back down a little bit too. It's down to 66 now. So I think that like it's just gonna kind of go like, be in that little range, for a while. We'll see.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of Bitcoin, let me share my screen.
Oh,
I
great.
know we got a beautiful article here. Boom, boom, boom. But Bitcoin, yes, Bitcoin near 72,000 as rising open interest signals growing leverage in a choppy market. And that's exactly what it feels like. It's very chippy choppy. It's doing some sideways crab here. And yeah, we don't really know where this is going to take us, man. It's been very unpredictable. I know that even just seeing it drop from the 100K region has been very impactful on the markets. Let me see, reflected leverage optimism. So, yeah, I guess we'll see where all of this goes. I know that with ETF flows support the upside momentum. I guess we'll see what happens, man. So right now it seems to be sitting around the 70K range. I'm curious to see where it goes over the next coming weeks. I personally don't think we'll go much lower. If we do, maybe 60K range. I don't know if we could go below the 50K. I hope not, because we'll see where that goes. But sitting around the range that it's at and being, hitting a sideways curve here, we'll see if there's going to be any momentum at where it's at. How are you feeling about this, Eli? You feel like we're going to see some action in the next few weeks or months, or are we just staying here for now?
I think we're going to stay here for now. I do think that one thing you had mentioned about ETFs and like how they kind of like support the upside. On the article that we were talking about just earlier, it says that ETFs like recorded a record. It was a 66 million in outflows compared to while they only saw 40.7 million in inflows. So like it's still kind of like weak. We're still kind of weak with like institutional demand. I think that when like these kind of like like macro problems start to happen, like institutions start to kind of back off from crypto. They really like they wait for those like really good market conditions before they start to get in. And so I think like we're gonna see it's gonna be slow for a while. But I think at the same time, like, long-term Bitcoin obviously like has like a lot of potential. I still believe in that. And so like, things are quieter right now during like the bear market, it's like now's the time when everyone like they say it's time to build, right? Like
It's time to biddle, Eli. It's time to biddle
that's what
for
everyone
the
says,
that
right?
no. um, yeah, man.
So
I definitely agree. I think these are the best times to accumulate, to build. to position yourselves. Nothing here is financial advice, folks, but these slow times are usually the best times to really take advantage and set yourselves up. And if you really think, if you're as bullish in a tokenized future as we are, like I really struggle to see a future in 10 years, in 20 years, where we're not everything is on chain, right? I think we're going to continue to go more digital. These little things are going to continue to consume our lives. If anything, in 10 years, who knows? We probably won't even be using these. They might be contact lenses or some glasses. You know what I'm saying? So it's interesting. I think, right now it's a very slow time. People are paying less attention. The vibes on CT, on crypto Twitter, aren't the highest, but I give it a few years. We're seeing a lot of different stuff happening on the regulatory side, legislation and all this stuff with, institutionally. I think, give it another couple of years, and we're going to look back at these times and been like, man, I can't believe I didn't take more time to accumulate my bag. So obviously don't put the mortgage on the line, guys, but I do think if you do accumulate during these periods, it will benefit you over the long run. Again, not financial advice. Eli gives the best financial advice according to Ashton here. Oh man, I love it. What else
So,
we got here, Eli? Do you got some
Marcello,
other things you want to share? I could pull something up as well.
let me. I was curious. I wonder if it's in the article that we have. It's not. I well, I guess it is. They're talking about kind of like the stock market a little bit. In one of the other things that I was bringing up here. Yeah, I think like the stock market's kind of held the same. And one thing I think that like it's kind of a larger narrative that also is related to what we're doing is this idea of AI, right? Which is like really highly tied into the stock market. We've been seeing the stock market kind of continuously going up because basically mostly because of AI, and it looks like things are kind of like holding flat there. Do you think like everyone's kind of like chasing this like next like the biggest AI model, like let's build the biggest data center. Like some people, like yeah, where's AI moving? But like first off, like that's a couple things that I'm curious about. Like I think this is a really big thing. Like is like where are we going with AI? Right? Like we just keep building bigger and bigger data centers, just like filling them with like more of these chips, and it's like what's the end game? I listened to there was an interview that Elon Musk did, and he was like quoted saying that like eventually we will be harnessing the power of the sun, like
Oh
all
my
of the
God.
power of the sun to just feed AI. You know what I mean? So I'm curious, like, what do you think, Marcello? Do you like where is the end game for AI? And also, too, second question, do you think we're in like an AI bubble? Quote unquote. That's what I've heard a lot of people talking about that too. What do you think?
Yeah, those are some really great questions. I definitely, so on both sides of the spectrum, are we in a bubble? I feel like, you even asking that question, I think to some degree we are. Obviously, hype cycles come and go. I remember we had another AI hype cycle maybe like 2 years ago, a year and a half. I don't know. It's a little blurry how fast things go into space. But yeah, at the same time as well, I do think it's the future, right? So hype cycles come and go. Here, this is an article that we're quoting from the World Economic Forum. I actually had another one I wanted to quote from our little agenda here, but it doesn't seem to be working. Maybe they took it down. There's too much alpha there. But, that article specifically was just talking about agentic AI explodes with 40% of enterprises deploying autonomous agents that plan and execute tasks with constant oversight. So, the one right here we're going to touch on in a sec is by the World Economic Forum. They're obviously, world's biggest leaders getting together to talk about some of the most important things happening. But agentic AI has been one of the biggest topics for, in the last recent bits. It's something I'm thinking a lot about. I know you're doing your thing with Claude. I recently bought my Mac Mini trying to set up my OpenClaw. I had a headache setting that up. So I resorted to using Claude myself. But it's been fascinating. I think over the last couple of years, if you had asked me this like 3 years ago, will AI replace our jobs? I would have maybe been like, yeah, maybe, I don't know, give us a bit more time, give us 10 years. Now with, agentic AI being able to actually run autonomously, make its own decisions, run workflows, it's really interesting, man. It's actually doing able to do a lot of the jobs that I think a lot of folks have been doing for a long time, and it's able to do the things that the more mundane tasks, right? If I need something to respond to emails or maybe do my bookkeeping and look through my Excel sheets, AI is really doing a good job of that now, and we've reached a scale that there's always work to be done and more improvement to be done, but I'm really impressed with how fast things are moving. So, to answer your question, I do think we're in a bit of a hype cycle. It's the hottest thing being talked about now. That's how it always is. And then we'll see where we are in 6 to 12 months. But I have no doubt that, an agentic future is absolutely where we're going. And AI will continue to continue to develop and innovate and improve. And I kind of struggle to see a world where we're not utilizing this technology more and more, right? Even to quote this article here with the World Economic Forum, AI scales into supply chains and manufacturing, right? These are massive industries. Manufacturing supply chains are where a lot of the stuff that we physically have it gets created. And then, when it comes to retail products, that's where consumers buy their stuff, right? And just being able to wiring autonomy into factories for resilient production ecosystems is absolutely massive, right? Leaders report 33% annual investment growth to $1.5 trillion by 2030. So they really expect this thing to keep on growing year after year. We're already at 2026, so 2030 is only a couple years from now. And there's a few things that come to mind: cutting costs, improving efficacy, and also, like, look, working with a robot doesn't complain. It doesn't show up to work late. It's not going to start a union. So, in many cases, as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, it does benefit you better to work with an agent that could do all the jobs that a human could do, and you wouldn't have to have a recurring salary to give them. So, I don't know. It's a really interesting topic. I kind of gave you a very loaded answer here, but I do think it's the future. I do think we are also in a bubble. Who knows? This might slow down in a couple months. We'll see. But zooming out over the next 5 to 10, 20 years, I really struggle not seeing a future that doesn't use agentic technology more and more.
Yeah, man. I agree with you on so many of these things. Like, obviously, we had talked about earlier, like internally, like I'm kind of building out this like tool with Claude that finds news, and I'm getting it set up so it can scrape X, and it scrapes Reddit too, and like trying to find like some of these trending narratives, and it's like that took me really like 30 minutes to like get set up, and I like I don't even know anything about code, and Claude was like, this is what you do, here's how you install this, here's how you like get it on your computer, and it really like spoon feeds it to you.
It's
In
amazing,
that
dude. For the audience, I recommend you guys to use Claude. Like, Claude is now my new ChatGPT. I know we defaulted to that over the last 2 or 3 years. It's amazing how optimized I find Claude is. Even like when it comes to troubleshooting stuff, like I set up my Claude so quickly in a couple hours, dude. If I tell you, I've been trying to set up OpenClaw for the last couple of weeks, and I was using ChatGPT. Maybe I need to use a different AI model like Claude to start feeding me different information, but. Yeah, sorry to cut you off. It's just like I resonate with what you said, because I'm like, from my experience, I'm like, yeah, no, this is interesting, and it's really easy if you ask it the right questions, and it seems to get things better than ChatGPT or maybe Gemini if folks use that more. So it was really cool.
yeah. And actually, I literally, Marcello, I never used Claude until like
Me too.
a week ago. And I actually got the same thing. I've been using ChatGPT this whole time. Like, I started using ChatGPT in like late 2022, like couple month or two after it came out, and I've been using it ever since then. Like, people are like, "Oh, you should use this, you should use that," and I'm like, "Nah, it's like you use a thing that like always works really well for you, and you're familiar with it." And I started switching to Claude, and I, got it like coding this app, and it's incredible. And I think one thing like that I did, and I think this like a lot of other people could do, is it's like, because it's so accessible, and it has like such a large like wealth of knowledge. Like, it's like anybody can go in there and create something that is literally like customized to themselves. It's like, what do I need in this instance? It's like this thing that I'm building. Like, I'm not, the idea is not like I'll build this out and I'll make it useful for like the whole world, right? It's just like I'll just build it and I'll make it work for me and my job and what I do. And I think like there's going to be a lot of more instances of that, right? Where it's like people are creating things like for themselves for these very specific kind of like instances. And I also think that too, it's like I'm imagining this future. I know we talk about like shows like the Jetsons and how you see like robots like helping people, and I think we like think about that like as a future. But I do think we're like pretty close to like a future where you'll wake up and you'll have like on your computer, it'll be like your robot, like your Jetson robot that'll be like, this is what you got to do today, and like here's let me help, like it'll be like your little sidekick on your computer throughout the day.
Dude, I don't want to go
That's what I
too far,
think.
but I had a conversation. I was at GDC with some of the gamer guys a few days ago, but everybody's experimenting with OpenClaw and Claude, so it was kind of funny because like this is what I really appreciate about this space. By the way, too, it's like even if like the people I was like are more with Web3 gaming, we're all like looking at like emerging technologies. That's why we're all in crypto, right? So it was really insightful for me, but. I had like an aha moment, and my shout out to my boy Icy, but he was just like, you do know that like you realize that like once I forget the name of the bots, but what are the Tesla robots that are running around now? Have you seen those? Like
Oh,
Tesla,
yes, yes, yes.
yeah,
I've seen
okay,
him on like TikTok and stuff too. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. And he had told me he's like, you do know that like eventually we're gonna just be downloading our AI agents into these robots, right? And it's like, wait a minute, what? It's like, yeah, like you're building this history, you're building reports, you're literally building up like a data center with all these different things. Like I'm creating a relationship with if you create an agent on OpenClaw and you're building a relationship with it, and it knows all these things about you, and it has all this access on you. Eventually, yeah, I think like when we all have AI agents made like real, like autonomous robots, I think we're just going to download, all these agents that we've been building straight into this thing, and it's already going to have all this information about us. I don't know. It's just like it really kind of blew my mind. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, this is like a lot bigger than like a lot of us realize. We're all having fun building these little robots that are like sending emails for us. What happens when we actually put that into the brain of a walking machine? Like this thing's gonna move so fast, dude. Like when he said, I'm like, oh, we're only a few years away from that. Like that's kind of crazy if you think about it. So I don't know. It was really funny when he told me that.
Yeah, we're close, man. There's one I forget. There's like one of they're called. I looked up. It's Optimus. Is the name of the Tesla robot, and
Mm,
I what was I gonna say? There's like a TikTok channel they have for one. It's called like I think it's called like the Rizzy bot or something, and it goes around New York City and it just like interacts with
that's so
people
funny, dude.
around. And there's like a guy that that records it and they like got it loaded up with like like sound bites and stuff. But I really do like see a future where like we kind of have it's almost like we're kind of working on this like in the computer right now with like OpenClaw, where it's like you have this idea of like a robot that can kind of like think for itself a little bit, like what I mean, like it's not really doing that, but it's like that's kind of what it seems like it's doing. And so I think like once they get that really figured out, like then we'll start to see the robots walking
Oh yeah,
around. I mean,
totally, dude.
there's like obviously limited, like there's a lot more. What is it like? It's a 3D world that I will be living in, so it's like a little bit more complex to like make that happen. But I think like that is going to become the future very soon. Now, one thing though, I'm curious about Marcello is like we had talked about the bubble, right? This idea of like the AI bubble. So the podcast I was listening to the other day, they were talking about how right now the reason people kind of think we're in this bubble too is that it's like because it's such a large race to like build the biggest data centers and like get the most chips and like because everyone wants their own AI model, right? Like Meta, Microsoft was doing helping out with open AI, like Elon wants his own like Grok like AI thing. The thing is, a lot of people are going into debt. There's like a lot of debt being sold to build these data centers. And like that is where we start to kind of get in like when people are like doing these like really like half-ass backwards ways to like figure out all the debt and like get your data center up and running. Like that's where it gets kind of like a little risky, you know what I mean? Where we see kind of like 2008 kind of similar things where it's just like similar things with like mortgages where people were like giving mortgages that they shouldn't have been giving. And it's just like, where it's like that
Mhm.
is just like running, that is like kind of starting to get away from us a little bit. So do you think, my question is then, do you think like something's going to happen and then it's all going to like unravel, or it's just going to be something like where it's like we get the robots and then it's like everything works out, or like, is there going to be like a point where it's like it's either going to sink or swim? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's really tough to say. All this is so unpredictable, especially how fast things are moving. I guess my answer is I don't know. I don't know, man. I think, and sometimes things need to get bad before they get good too. So maybe things do need to happen. I don't want to think of it that way, but that's just a reality of life. We'll see, and I think it lines up pretty well with this article I'm sharing here. I was just googling for some, see what's going on, and I found just this right now. Anthropic, the AI or the company behind Claude. The Claude model and all this stuff. They literally they were temporarily blocked by Pentagon's blacklist of AI companies. This was yesterday. A U.S. judge on Thursday temporarily blocked the Pentagon's blacklisting of Anthropic. Interesting. So the Pentagon tried to blacklist Anthropic, but the White House stopped it. The latest turned in company's high stakes fight with the military over AI safety on the battlefield. So, like, even just like the concern around AI safety is a big one. Like, how does that look like? Even like the conversation of war, right? Like, that's a big, like, should we, like, this raises the question of ethics. Should we allow AI to fight wars for us? Like, what happens at that level? Are humans even going to be fighting wars for us anymore? Like, it's funny because it's such a big Pandora's box to me. Like, I feel like we're opening this thing up and we just don't know the mystery box that we're going to open up, because this could go so many different directions. But yeah, no, I just found this article really interesting on things move so fast. Like, literally, you might be putting all your time into Claude. The White House might be bad, the Pentagon might be completely blacklisting it. And it's like, all right, well, now so I don't know. This might pop the bubble itself. So I don't know. I also think
Yeah.
that all of this is natural progression. Like, you can't avoid innovation. You can't stop, humans creating stuff. And I think AI is one of the things we're going to be focusing on to build out here. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of another
Yeah, man.
open-ended, long-winded answer to your question.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I think, man, so first off with the Pentagon thing, what you're looking at right now, the Pentagon asked Claude basically if they could have kind of like an unfiltered version of Claude to use like for defense or for whatever they wanted to do. And Anthropic said no.
Mm.
And so the Pentagon blacklisted them. They're like, okay, you're not going to give us the model. Well, guess what? We're going to blacklist you, and you're not going to work. You're not going to have any defense contracts, kind of thing, like because you won't give us access. It's like it's an ethical question, like kind of you said, right? Like there are new ethical questions that are going to come about that we have like never experienced before, right? Like we've never had this kind of future like where a machine can kind of like make decisions for itself. Like I guess we're kind of seeing a little bit with Waymo, right? Like there have
Oh
been
my God,
times
yeah.
there
I
have
was
been
just
times
in
where
San Francisco. They're
yeah,
swarming the streets, man.
yeah. I've never seen a Waymo. I'm like I want to see one
It
so
is
bad. But
so cool, dude. It is literally a ghost car. It's just driving
yeah,
by
I've
itself.
I've heard like the typical experience in the Waymo is like you get in it and it's like you're like, whoa, this is like crazy. And then it's like after like 10 minutes, you're just like looking on your phone, you're like just like
Yeah, you get used to
cruising,
it real quick.
it's just so quick. But it's like the ethical question there is like, if the Waymo and this happened, like the Waymo's like hit people before, and
Oh
it's
my
like
God, you're right.
who is the fault? Who is culpable for that, right? So this is like an ethical question that has never existed before, right? Because if you had a horse or you had a car and you hit somebody with it, it's like, well, you're the one operating that vehicle, like you're clearly at fault. And then like with Waymo, it asks a similar question. I think like these are kinds of questions that we're gonna have with
Mm,
AI, right? Like especially when it comes to you had mentioned war. So another thing that makes me think of too is we're kind of on the fringe there a little bit is in the war in Ukraine. with Russia, there's a lot of people using drones, like small
Mm.
drones. You know what I mean? Like, and they are like carrying them around. Like, I mean, a lot of them are like FPV drones. Like, they're not like autonomous drones to that point, right? But it's like I think in the future, this is what we'll see. Like somebody flying, a small drone or something, and they put explosives like on these drones, right? It's like you're a Ukrainian, you get a really small FPV drone, you put a bomb on it, and you like fly it at somebody and it blows up, right? Right. Like the idea is that in the future, these things will be like more like be able to kind of like be in the sky and like make their own decisions and things like that. And it's like who is responsible for these things? Number one, I think that's a big ethical question. And then number two, another thing I think about is like it's like you can't stop innovation. Like that's another thing you said too, right? So it's like if Anthropic doesn't give the government this model or something, somebody will. Like they're gonna get it, the information. Like these things are gonna happen whether people want them to or not. It's kind of like sometimes I see on my Facebook timeline, people are like, stop using AI. Like, stop using it. And it's like, you are not going to like, this is not going to do
You can't
anything.
fight
Like,
innovation. It's like stop using cars when
yeah.
a car was invented. It's like everybody's riding their horses. It's like, dude, you can't.
But
You can't keep up with the times, man.
people did do that. Like when cars came around, like
Yeah.
people did do that, right? Because there were so many jobs that were like lost. Like there's a whole industry of people who like took care of horses, who moved horses around, who did all these things. And they were like, dude, you can't come in here with these cars. They're crazy machines that are uncontrollable because there's not a like an animal, before it was an animal, it was like a live thing, and they're like, these cars are machines, they're uncontrollable, like, and it's gonna just take all our jobs. It's like the same thing. I do think too, like I think what'll happen is like a similar thing to in the early 2000s will happen, right? Like with the dot-com bubble, So it's like everybody started doing. Oh my god! Everybody started doing all this stuff in the internet. They were like, "Here's the internet. It's super cool. Like, let's do everything about it." And then like a couple years later, after like VC threw in tons of money, it was like maybe like building some random website is not the move. And it all crashed and we kind of consolidated, right? And I think like something like that will happen. Like right now, venture capital is pumping tons of money. Like, here's $10 million to go build some AI bot that you don't even have a website to go to like go visit, and I think like eventually something will happen. It'll like kind of reset things, and then we'll like scale back, and we'll have like some like major players that'll kind of like come out on top. But I don't know, man. Like you said, like it's like nobody really knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah,
And
I
that
would
was like
like
a
things
lot
to
of
slow down a
yapping.
bit. To be honest, it's moving too quick for me though. Like this AI stuff is moving so fast. We'll see, man. We'll see. I guess we'll see where things go. I know by 20. I know the World Economic Forum said by like 2030 we should have like smart cities and stuff. So if we keep moving in that direction, then we're gonna keep seeing a lot of these developments, and I'm kind of curious to see where all that goes. Um, let's mix it up a bit. I know we talked a lot on AI. I'm looking at some RWA tokenized real world assets. Let me pull up an article here. Boom, boom, boom.
Let's do it.
Let's go. So this is a pretty bullish news. This is very positive. Crypto broker Bitpanda, shout out to Bitpanda, launches blockchain to connect European banks with tokenized assets. So this is a Vienna-based firm is joining the growing race to build compliant blockchain rails for traditional securities like equities and funds. Man, honestly, really impressed with what's happening with RWAs. Arguably the fastest growing sector in crypto. If you don't consider AI, AI is doing its own thing. I think the intersection between blockchain and AI is a big one. But specifically within tokenized assets, RWAs has been growing really fast. This is exciting, man. So essentially, like just seeing more institutional adoption, right? We keep talking about like mainstream adoption of crypto and all this stuff. the best way is for these big banks and these big hedge funds, to essentially get into the space. And I think RWAs is one of the biggest ways to do that. It makes the most sense, especially when you're talking to traditional investors, right? I think the idea of investing in gold, in oil, real estates, the list goes on. Real physical assets is the language that makes a lot of sense to a lot of folks. But just being able to bridge that on chain, tokenizing these physical, real world assets, in my opinion, I feel like it makes a lot of investors more comfortable because it's something that they're very familiar with. Older folks, investors that have been investing in gold for decades, you try to talk to them about, Ethereum and Bitcoin and all these other, cryptocurrencies. A lot of them might be open to it, but it's a harder learning curve, I think. But if you talk to them about gold, you're investing in gold still, but now it's just tokenized on chain on the blockchain. It's fun because it really, I think, introduces folks to this whole new world that of on chain tokenized assets, but it still has that familiarity aspect of being able to invest in assets that they've invested their whole lives. So yeah, no, this is really bullish. Bitpanda collaborating with a bunch of European banks. We love to see it. Launching a blockchain, such as Mika and MIFID to tokenize assets under rules such as Mika. Okay, that's huge, right? Like Mika compliancy and all this stuff. Like you want to, bridging the gap between institutions and crypto isn't always easy. So you want to make sure that they're compliant with all this stuff, right? They're going to call it Vision Chain. It'll be used it will use regulated euro-dominated stable coins for transaction fees and rely on Optimism's Ethereum-based infrastructure. It's really cool, man. Move positions financial firms, including Robinhood, Nasdaq, and the New York Stock Exchange, building compliant blockchain platforms for trading tokenized securities around the clock. By the way, shout out to the New York Stock Exchange. I think they were doing something a while ago too. I'd have to pull up the article, but I think they're doing a tokenized platform as well. I need to pull it up. Let me see if I can find it. This was a few weeks ago, but it's really interesting stuff, man. They're developing a 24/7 tokenized securities platform. Let me actually share this screen here with this article as I feel like it's relevant. But yeah, the New York Stock Exchange partners with Securitize to develop 24/7 tokenized securities platform. So this is a whole different thing from like the Bitpan thing that I was just mentioning. But yeah, we're continuing to see institutional adoption here. The New York Stock Exchange, the world's biggest stock exchange in the world, is literally building a 24/7 tokenized securities platform, which is amazing, by the way, right? This was an article from 3 days ago on March 24th. So it's very relevant as it was this week. But yeah, no, it's really exciting because I think, again, we're seeing more and more institutions getting into this. If you're trading options, if you're trading stocks on the stock market, typically that only works from 9 to 5 during business hours, right? But now having a 24/7 tokenized securities platform, I could be trading at that Saturday night, Sunday morning, Monday night, any time of the weekend. That raises a whole other level of concerns around, not being able to unplug. But, as an investor, as a trader, this is great. If you're trying to make money, you're trying to look at the markets, you won't have to clock out when the stock market closes. All of this is coming. So yeah, that's my little tangents here. We're seeing more institutions adopting all this stuff. Tokenized markets, tokenized securities, tokenized real world physical assets. This is all on the rise, guys. And RWAs is going to continue to grow. And it's interesting seeing headlines like this, especially considering, the market be down. It's, fundamentally things are still continuing to happen, and we're still moving in a positive direction here. So yeah, that's my little rant, Eli. Sorry for
No, dude, you're good, man. You're good. I totally agree. Like RWAs are one of the big narratives. I think sometimes I forget that stable coins are really like in RWA, which is huge. Like the stablecoin market is huge. I think specifically what you're showing, like being able to tokenize security or tokenize, the stock market. Like first off, number one, obviously we talked about how like 24/7 trading. So it's like you don't have to be constricted to like these certain time frames, like which not everybody is available, or can like trade during, 9 to 5. Second, one other thing it does is it's like it kind of opens up the stock market to like people that are outside of the country almost, like one of the things that I like about like when we tokenize RWAs is that it really opens up the market to a lot of new people, right? So one of the projects that we work with at Genzio over at Trilitech is uranium.io, and like it's tokenized uranium. And so like idea is that, say you're somebody in South Asia or Africa or South America or even in like some European countries, or you know what I mean? You might not be able to get access to those kinds of assets. And now you can with tokenized uranium or tokenized gold or tokenized stocks. It might be, you might actually want to like make some money on your money in some other countries, and that's like not possible. But now if you can invest in some of these assets, and you actually can, so that number one, it opens up access, but also two, it opens up a capital. Like it's like, imagine how much more capital we can put into these markets now. You know what I mean? It's like if you can only trade the stock market, you can only trade the stock market in the US and Europe. Well, guess what? Now you can do it in Asia. You can do it in Australia and India, in Africa. Like there's like so much potential capital, and you can do it at any time. Like that's like so cool. But I also think too, like another thing that I really like about RWAs is this kind of idea of like it's like borderless payments. I think right now in the world of like remittances too, there's a lot of people that are kind of like scraping money like off the top to like make all this happen. Like Western Union, Revolut, Wise, there's like a lot of fees involved. And when you use the blockchain to do a lot of these things, it really saves a lot of money and a lot of time. And it's also like the environment that it sits in is like this decentralized environment. So there's like the trust there. It's kind of like a trustless environment almost a little bit. So I think RWAs are going to become like we said with AI, they're already becoming like a huge narrative this year. I think too, like what you said at the end, like people, even though it's like a bear market or Bitcoin's down, like these are still things that people are building because they're worthwhile, right? Like it doesn't like, tokenized gold or tokenized uranium or like the tokenized stocks, like they are completely independent of Bitcoin price, Ethereum price. So it's like you don't have to wait for the bear market, you don't have to wait for the bull market. Like you can just build out this infrastructure while while things are on a lull, so to speak.
Absolutely.
I think now's the best time to start doing some of these things, man. So I'm excited to see where RWAs go. Like I think that we're moving from like crypto hype and like chasing what is it like this, chasing all-time highs to like, all right, let's build up some infrastructure. Like, let's take the ethos of crypto and like, how can we apply it into the real world? And like, there's like use cases. It's like the kind of the focus, which I like.
It's focusing on the stuff that matters. I think token price, I don't know who said this, but I'm going to butcher it. But yeah, token price is like a lagging indicator of a lot of this stuff. And like, yeah, your token could be down, yet fundamentally, you're still creating the right crypto rails. You're still locking in partnerships with institutions. You're rolling out, stable coins or whatever you're doing. Literally the New York Stock Exchange is launching, working on developing a 24/7 tokenized securities platform. That if you told me there was like one thing that would like extremely bullish news for me, that would be it. And it's like there's no better mainstream adoption than getting a massive institution like that, right? So I think that's huge. I'm happy you touched on the stablecoin side of things. Let me share an article here that caught my attention. How is the stablecoin landscape shifting in 2026? So we're seeing a lot of different stuff happening. The stablecoin market cap, it now tops at $200 billion, guys. That's insane. As institutions seek on-chain cash equivalents for payments and yields. And, I like how it says that on-chain cash equivalents, right? And the idea that like, we're gonna, these big institutions, big banks are, hoarding these massive amounts of cash. Sometimes it's hard to do that, right? But having it on chain, I think, is one of the best ways to remove that friction. And the beautiful thing about moving big amounts of money, when it's on chain, it's all public, right? I know that there's been situations in the past where we don't know where the money went, and it's just like, well, now it's all on a public ledger. So I don't see that really happening anymore unless we're using secret wallets out here. But this is absolutely huge. Let me see. USDC and USDT dominates volumes, powering 70% of DeFi trades, which is huge, right? The crypto market is still growing, but to have 70% of these DeFi trades sitting mainly dominating volume on USDC and USDT, which are stablecoins, I think is absolutely bullish, right? So USDC continues to solidify its position as preferred stablecoin for regulated entities, boasting $75.61 billion in market capitalization and SOC compliance. We even have PayPal's stablecoin, while smaller at 1.54 billion market cap, is gaining traction among mainstream consumers due to its integration in PayPal and Venmo. And here's another thing. I get the feeling we're going to see more stable coins being rolled out by other providers, right? We have PayPal with PYUSD. I know USDC and USDT are the two biggest ones right now. But I don't know. I heard some things that like people are talking with the Canadian government here to do some stuff, or Canadian banks, and there's people are going to be rolling out their own stable coins over the next little while too. So I wouldn't be surprised if even like dominance from USDC and USDT might start declining if we start seeing other institutions, other countries rolling out their own stable coins, or maybe other big companies. I mean, PayPal is one of the world's biggest companies. They have their own stable coins. So who knows? We might see others from other providers too. So it's a very interesting front, man. I think stable coins will definitely be one of the biggest drivers for mass adoption. Just because, keeping your money, and I think a lot of the hesitancy and skepticism that a lot of folks have had with crypto is the volatility. Like that's absolute, right? But, the idea of like still being able to have, transparency, ownership, being able to move large sums of money without a middleman. I think stablecoins really provide a lot of that utility, and I think a lot of people will benefit and see the benefit of that over the next couple of years. So I'm really fascinated with this whole stable coins and institutional adoption approach.
Yeah, man. If you want to scroll down on that article, there's a section that says what are the investment implications for the broader crypto ecosystem. I think it's just after the PayPal one. No, the next one.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. They talk about how like it's like there's implications in like the bigger ecosystem, right? So it's like people are using stable coins now. Like they're not just kind of like this like means to an end, where it's like, you have Ethereum and you want to like stable up to like hold some value or something like that. Like now they're really being used as like financial infrastructure, right? Like corporations are going to start using these things, to like pay their employees, cross borders as like the world becomes more globalized. Like, we're going to be able to like, it says influencing from trading liquidity to central bank strategy. Like there's kind of like, they call it the stablecoin wars, like you said, like a lot of people are going to want to be making their own stablecoin. So what they're trying to do is like, it's like it's kind of like an arbitrage, like opportunity, right? Like if you're running a stablecoin, essentially what you're doing is you're like buying up US treasuries, giving the dollars out, and then like getting the interest on like the treasuries, right? Like you basically just make money because you have a lot of money in the first place. Like, you know what I mean? It's like what banks do essentially, right? Like, and that's kind of how I think we're seeing like this rise of like neo banks, like these crypto cards that are like, I use Cast. Like it's an application where you have a consumer crypto card, you can send stable coins or Bitcoin
Cass
to
is
it.
doing a great job, by the way. It's K with a K, right?
Yeah. With a K.
So I need to say this. So shout out to Pudgy Penguins. They just collaborated with them. They have the Pengu Visa card now. We don't need to touch on that news, but you mentioned Cast. I'm like, oh, shout out to those guys. They're doing some good stuff.
I have a premium cast card. I paid like $500 to get like a premium, like a cast card. Sorry, am I talking about right?
Oh, all good.
But
Actually, I'm going to
anyways,
shamelessly plug it right here. Shout out to Cast. You're talking about them. There's a Pudgy
love
Penguin, and they're doing
cast.
a cool Pengu card collaboration. But yeah, no, I just thought that would be funny to share because, talking about mass consumer adoption, right? I think
Mhm.
it's interesting, the bridge between both worlds. But anyways, I completely cut you off. Keep going.
No, don't worry, man. Don't worry, man. Because Cass is filling that role. Like people, it's because it's a neo bank, right? So on the Cass app, you can have a bank account. Like you can off ramp money very easily to bank accounts all over the world. Like my mom uses Cass, for instance. My mom doesn't
That's
know
so
anything.
cool.
My mom doesn't know anything about crypto, Marcello. But if it's like I want to pay her, I sent her USDT on cash, and she goes to like the grocery store and she spends it, man. It's crazy. And so it's like this idea of like the neo bank is becoming more and more popular. Cast also like you said, they did this collaboration with Pengu. They just raised $80 million, dude. Like in this
That's
year,
incredible. Wow.
like markets
What
down,
bear
markets down.
market?
Yeah, it's literally. But that's the thing. Like so that's another thing we talk about the stablecoin wars. Cast is also gearing up for their own stablecoin. Everybody wants a stablecoin. Like there's gonna be a lot of it's gonna be a lot of like everyone's getting into this kind of like space while they can. And then at the same time too, like we see that like what also the stablecoin adoption does is it provides more stability and participation in DeFi from like
Mhm.
institutional players. So if you're a bank and you're issuing your own stablecoin, like you're more at like the more like kind of like foundational kind of like stablecoin I think we can make in the market. Like we get more players into the DeFi kind of game because there's more like a foundation, I guess, if that makes sense. But
Absolutely. Yeah,
so
absolutely. And while you're talking, here's another article on stablecoins. Let me pull it up here. Yeah, Australia's central bank says stablecoins, bank deposit tokens can now coexist in $17 billion tokenization drive. So, yeah, the Bank of Australia is interested in tokenized stablecoin assets. Super interesting stuff. They said the tokenization of assets and money could deliver $24 billion in Australian currency or $16.7 billion USD in annual efficiency gains to the Australian economy. That's very bullish. They clearly believe in
gains.
they clearly believe in this stuff, man. Assistant Governor Brad Jones noted that stablecoins and bank deposit tokens could play complementary roles as the RBA pivots to a how framework for implementation with a new digital sandbox and expanded deposit token working group. Really cool stuff, man. It's amazing to see. Again, markets doing its thing, but we continuously see on a fundamental side, on the institutional side, big players are definitely very interested in this technology, and you know, folks are saying it'll help contribute to the economy as well. So this is it, man. This is it.
That's crazy. I mean, Australia's a big government, and that's their central bank. That's like it's kind of like the country of Australia is like,
Yeah,
what is the word? Endorsing the use of crypto, essentially. Like, so I think we're gonna start to see more and more of that, as more countries kind of like integrate stablecoins within their own central banks, and then it's like once the whole world is like integrated, then like it's gonna make it so easy for these kind of cross-border payments. On the last article that you had showed, it says at the end, stablecoin circulation is projected to exceed $1 trillion by late 2026.
wow, I saw
Like
that.
that's huge. So I don't know, man. I think like we're getting closer to the end of the hour. Like, we've talked about AI, we talked about RWAs, we talked about stable coins. It's like if you look at like the market, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana prices, you might actually see this like negative picture of like what's happening right now. But I think like if you look at like the broader, like what's actually happening, like what people are doing with technology and things, like it seems like pretty bullish to me. I don't know. What do you
Absolutely.
think?
Absolutely. I think it was just funny. I just wanted to like throw this up because again, price does not indicate, everything else that's going on. But yeah, if you look at the charts right now, everything's pretty much red on a 7-day chart, 24-hour chart. And the last hour, things are starting to pick up a little bit. But yeah, the market cap of crypto, it's down 3%. CMC top 20 is down 4%. Fear that at 23 on the fear and greed scale. It's not, the sentiment isn't the highest right now. People aren't like dumping, all their money into crypto. But again, if there's the big takeaway from the stream, guys, I hope you took value from this. And it's just that, like, look, the pieces are still, this is a game of chess. This is a marathon, not a sprint. The pieces are still moving. The institutions are still paying attention, and if anything, they're still locking in the pieces for when things do get crazy again, right? And I know that like this is how these things work. They call them cycles for a reason. Right now, it seems like we're more on a downturn, but give it some time, and we'll soon eventually see it. And this is actually very relevant. Look, here's a hot thing. U.S. enacts Genius Act for stablecoins, right? So here's a little CMC AI. I love it. But yeah, a little summary. The United States has enacted the Genius Act, creating the first full federal rule book for dollar peg stablecoins. So literally legislation is being written out right now for all of this. So I absolutely love it. The Genius Act limits stablecoin issuance to licensed entities, mandates full cash/treasury backing, audits and AML checks, and defines stablecoins as digital payment instruments. That's amazing. Major issuers like Tether and USDC must align with Genius requirements. So yeah, essentially we're seeing, legislation, we're seeing regulations around this. Not anybody could just spin up a stable coin and be like, hey, use my thing now. It's like, no, you actually have to be aligned with the Genius Act. It needs to follow its requirements. And yeah, I think this is another positive step forward for all of this. But I want to thank everybody for this amazing show. I see we're creeping up on the top of the hour, and I do need to run to the next thing. But thank you, everybody, for being here. Eli, thanks for being an incredible co-host. Any last thoughts you want to share here as we wrap it up?
No, man, it's always a pleasure to chat with you, Marcello. This has been great, man. I'm looking forward to the next one, and thanks for being here today.
Me too, brother. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. If you're not already following Genzio, what are you doing? Give us a follow. We're going to be hosting these every Friday. It might, we might have a bit of rotation between Action and I and Eli, but we're going to guarantee some amazing hosts every week. And throughout the week, we host a lot of different shows, spaces. If ever you'd like to be a part of them, send us a DM. King is always asking us for amazing speakers, so that might just be you. So send us a DM. We'd be more happy to set you up. And if you're looking for any marketing support, marketing growth, that's what we do. That is our specialty. So slide in our DMs as well. But without further ado, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll catch you guys on the next one, and have a beautiful Friday. Take care, everybody.
Hey, what's up?
But it's not something Genzio is afraid of.
If you want to survive, you got to build a house.
No, we do not understand.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Rebecca's Genzio Media House.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us today.